Hot process soap with a water discount? Can she soap it? This is how I've been making hot process soap recently. I still burp my blender with hot process because I want to reduce splashing active lye out of the bowl. I've seen someone advise that it's not necessary in hot process soap, but I feel like it is for me at least. That feels like it could be a safety issue since the air won't cause a design issue with this method. Maybe it also depends on how well the oils and lye cover the blender, but I'll always advise to burp the blender just to reduce the risk of splashing a caustic substance out of the container. I weighed the soap and split it into two equal parts. The reason I'm being more precise and not just eyeing the amounts is because you have to add the fragrance after the cook in hot process soap. In cold process soap, I frequently add the fragrance to the oils before mixing the lye solution in, and so it doesn't have to be divided precisely since it's scented evenly at the beginning. Weighing the batter now ensures I'll add the correct safe amount of fragrance to each section after the cook. While I've made a fair amount of cold process soap, I'm pretty new to hot process soap. I've been playing with different lye concentrations or water as a percent of oils, and so far I haven't liked the result of anything over about a 2.25 to 1 water to lye ratio. With more water, the soap feels almost spongy when I unmold it, and it hasn't seemed to harden up as well as my cold process soaps. That doesn't seem to be a common occurrence with hot process soap makers I've interacted with, but I also know everyone seems to have their own sweet spot with all of the variables that go along with soaping. I'm just trying to find my groove and what works for me. Many soapers add color to their soap after the soap has cooked, and they mix their colors with the water to make it easy to incorporate and swirl. To keep my water content lower, I'm testing these double crocks to color the soap first and then cook it. This way, I don't have to add water after the soap is cooked, and I can keep my water content lower. For this recipe, I used a 2 to 1 water to lye ratio, which is a 33% lye concentration, or for this recipe, 28% water as a percent of oils. I'll link some good resources to water content and water discounts in the video description. This was my first time using these Crocs, and I probably stirred more than I needed to, but I was merely trying to keep a close eye on how the soap was behaving. Opening the lid frequently allows some of the water to escape since it's steaming, and I already have a pretty low water content for this method. While the soap cooks, it looks like it's breathing to me, because as the Crocs turn on and off to regulate the temperature, the soap reacts to it. Once the soap stopped rising and falling so much, and it started changing into a Vaseline type consistency, it had cooked enough to remove it from the heat. Some soapers remove it from the heat a little sooner and let it continue cooking in the crock, and I think some may even remove it later, but removing it from the heat at this point seems to have worked pretty well for me so far. I let it sit a few minutes and stir it a couple of times to make sure it was all mixed together and was the same gel-like consistency throughout the soap. At this point, many soapers will test the pH by either ZAT testing or using pH strips. I will link information on pH testing soaps in the video description as well. I do think coloring the soap before the cook makes it a little more difficult to see that it has gelled, especially in the video. I made several batches coloring the pre-cook and post-cook soap before I made this batch, and I do think if you're just starting off with hot process, it's good to make your first batch uncolored and then add your color to the end if you choose to color it at all. It was a good learning experience to see how it looks while it cooks without any colors added to the batter. This has cooled just a little bit, and I'm adding the fragrance oil to each pot. You can see how thick the soap is while I'm trying to plop it into the mold. It's clearly not a very or even slightly fluid hot process. Previously, I've tried more water, adding yogurt post cook, using full water and a combination of things, but I still didn't enjoy the results and I never achieved the fluid batter that I've seen others get. However, I have since used sodium lactate post cook. It does require that I add a little water or liquid post cook, but it made a huge difference on the fluidity of the batter and smoothness of the sides of the bars. Remember, this video is me learning and sharing what I've learned. I'm not trying to act like I know everything there is to know about this method. I'm simply documenting what worked for me and creating a helpful tool for me to reflect on while I progress. I feel that if I'm so opposed to using so much water and hot process for the soaps that I make, there may be things that I sacrifice in the design. It's the tops. The tops of my hot process soaps are never beautiful to me, but I can get a decent swirl. Hot process is a fantastic method to make your soap extra customizable by choosing what oil you want for your superfat to be by adding it post cook. It's also a great method to work around fragrance oils that cause cold process soap to rise or seize, since it's added post cook and doesn't interact with the lye. For this soap, I actually didn't customize the superfat by adding it post cook. I just superfatted it like I would for cold process soap. I also used Nurture Soap's Black Raspberry Vanilla Fragrance Oil, which behaves beautifully in cold process soap. My goal with this batch was to just test what swirl I can achieve with a water discount and coloring the batter pre-cook in two separate crocks. I felt like I was successful in getting most of what I wanted with this batch, but like I said before, sodium lactate post-cook did make the soap much more workable in later batches. So the combination of sodium lactate and pre-coloring the soap in two separate crocks has made the design aspect better for me while also allowing me to use a water amount I feel comfortable using. Everyone is going to have a different preference in their soap making techniques, and I really think that's one of the great things about making soap. We're all different, but we can still produce wonderful things. While I do think the design aspect of hot process soap is more difficult, I do think it's a wonderful method of making amazing soap. I really enjoyed both cold process and hot process for different reasons.